We're locked and loaded. Oh fuck. I can no longer be racist. No. I have to stop being racist for 2 hours. Impossible challenge. It's your 42-month sub anniversary. Oh, damn it. Yeah, at least one of them showed up. Oh.
You abomination, Pepsi Man.
Ah,
Pepsi Man
jinxed it.
is already an abomination. What have you done, Arn?
I haven't done anything. I'm not Japan.
I feel that you are directly responsible for their degeneracy.
Yeah, let me just invent a time machine real quick. Go back in time to like the 1700s, give them the first tentacle hentai. That's something I've done, yes.
I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me.
At this point, sure. Yeah.
Like, listen, I assume that tentacle hentai is some kind of causality paradox. Someone had it in the future, they went back in time with it, and they found the one dude who was super into it and would preserve it in the 1700s, and thus normalize his weirdness in the 3030s or whatever.
Yeah. You know, that's just life in Japan.
So how are you, Sneaky?
Hmm. Could have fooled me.
That's a pretty good report on your end then.
I wonder if Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is in a playable time. My problem is apparently there's a go ahead.
Based?
I'm sorry, there's a moment in what that you
Fabulous.
can what?
Fabulous.
I
I
love that.
truly mean that.
I love that so much.
That's real
Okay,
Sigma
look,
energy.
I will give Owlcat Games credit for this. They went all in on trying to make this an excellent RPG with a ton of actual meaningful choice. By the way, Max, the fact that that's a setting is awesome.
The passage of time goes on. No man can escape it.
I will say this is another minor spoiler, but if you have other certain stats, you can instead choose the dialogue option. Well, becoming a lich requires the sacrifice of a soul, but it never said it had to be a mortal one.
Based?
That is some Fallout ass shit, and I love it.
Eyes glow.
But yeah, listen, I'm So Sneaky, originally I
Yeah.
decided because you get a flaming sword to start with, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a meme playthrough. I'm gonna be Roy.
Yeah.
But then some mad lad was like, what if I replaced all of the character barks with angry Dimitri from Fire Emblem Three Houses? And I was like, time for a murder hobo playthrough.
It is time for everything to die.
Well, actually, you know what? I should be clear. Dimitri's not a murder hobo. He hates the Empire, and he hates people who break the law.
I will say I did love that in Wasteland 3. There was a moment.
Yeah, Wasteland 3's a thing.
Yeah, it was actually a fairly fun game, to be honest.
I heard it was okay, but I was like, eh?
Yeah, no, there was several moments where they learned clearly from Wasteland 2, because there's a lot of problems with Wasteland 2 that are under the surface.
Yes.
Where they tried making Wasteland 1 but new, and the problem with that is we've moved past a lot of the older I'm gonna replay this game for the next 10 years sort of situations, because it's the only thing I have access to. And so a lot of the memey broken shit in Wasteland 1 didn't translate well to a playthrough of Wasteland 2. And it's like, there's a lot of moments in Wasteland 2 where you're like, well, why can't I do this thing? Oh, it's because you chose this earlier. It's like, well, how the fuck was I supposed to know choosing that earlier would do this now? They're not even remotely related. It's like, well, get fucked. It's like, okay, fuck you. And it kind of really demoralized people. Wasteland 3 learned heavily from its Wasteland 2 problems, where a lot of the stuff that happens later on due to your choices, it's obvious why it happened from what your choice was.
Like, you broke the dam. Because you broke the dam, people got flooded and they hate your fucking guts.
Well, yes. But also shit like, because you sided with the police during the gang war, when the girl went to the police for help, they were able to help her, and so therefore, this happened instead.
If you'd helped the gangs,
right?
Because you helped the gangs, the police would not be in a position to help the girl, so she died.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Or worse. Expelled.
But there is moments you can technically go through all of Wasteland 3 killing everyone, technically, which is great. But also at the same time, there is certain moments in the game where you're not penalized for slaughtering everyone in this one area. Like, so basically at one point in the game, a bunch of insane cultists who believe that a AI based on Reagan is an ascendant god. And the AI based on Reagan isn't really even like an AI based on Reagan. He's like an AI based on Reagan, but a tour guide for a museum.
Double based?
Huh?
So, like, the AI wasn't meant to be like, this is Ronald Reagan. It was supposed to just be like, this is Ronald Reagan, but actually he's just going to tell you about the actual Reagan's achievements and not actually have any real
He doesn't think he's Reagan.
No, he thinks he's Reagan. It's just kind of that double think stuff going on with it. But it's like, the AI wasn't meant to be literally an AI version of Reagan. The AI was meant to be a tour guide telling people about Reagan as Reagan.
Right. I got it.
But everyone venerated him as Reagan instead of, not Reagan.
Or Lord and Savior Ronald Reagan.
Anyway, so it's a bunch of crazy cultists.
But they have a bunch of oil. And that's very important if you, say, want to run engines. In fact, they have the only oil in the area. So, you kind of need oil.
Time to get American.
Yeah, you kind of need oil, and you show up there, and they're agreeable enough. And if you help them push out these tribals in the area, they'll give you oil. and support you in your stuff.
Very
And,
nice.
To be fair, the tribals are also bad guys. Because, oh, by the way, the Reaganites just, like, fry people alive if they say they disagree with the giant head of Reagan.
What fucking game is this?
Wasteland 3. So they're not great people. But the tribals you're supposed to push out are, murderous psychopaths who believe killing people, skinning them alive, and then turning their skins into giant kites and flying them in the sky gets them closer to heaven, and therefore doing it's a good thing.
So what I'm hearing is burn them both to the ground.
And you have the option of technically also siding with them, and they're like, yeah, we know how to fix the oil machines too, so if you help us and kill all the Reaganites, we'll also, give you oil. And so
But we're the Rangers. We're the Army Corps of Engineers. Why don't we just kill every last one of you and take the oil myself?
It's a very good question.
That is also the third option. Technically, there's 5 options because then you go into the next area nearby, and there's a bunch of robots secretly there. And if you manage to diplomacy them, they'll be like, hey, yeah, if you kill both of these groups, we'll take care of the oil for you. And then you don't have to worry about them ever betraying you, because we don't want to betray you, because if you kill all these groups, we have no hope of beating you.
If you kill every last one of them, I'm not gonna fuck with you.
So, logically, because we are creatures of logic, we will not, in fact, try and fight you, because that would just get us killed. It's like, that's fair enough. I can believe in that. So, yes, you can kill everyone and take the oil anyway. But yeah, like I said, there's 5 options, because you can then also kill the robots, and then you alone would just have the oil, but it would be like, it's like technically the worst outcome, because you kind of need people to be maintaining an oil supply for you, and lore-wise, if you have to keep going back to, maintain and pump oil, it's not really good for the frontline soldiers to be doing that.
Yeah. It's not good for the front line to have to walk back to make sure he gets... If your front line is also your chef, you have a problem.
You have more problems than the chef being required to fight.
Yeah, Slark, I don't think you understand. I definitely don't give a shit.
Anyway, so let's get into it today. So we did anime, we did books, we did games. Let's go with some more anime today. What are you guys feeling today? What are you guys feeling today? Fairy Tail, maybe? What's the worst that could happen in Fairy Tail? What do you guys think?
Quite a lot.
Fairy Tail
Crossovers or
Dragon
no
Slayer.
crossovers? Well, I mean, surprisingly, Fairy Tail Dragon Slayer does not write any fairy tale stories that don't include Naruto.
Well,
Okay,
I mean,
so as
yeah,
long as we avoid the
but,
Naruto crossover, we're safe?
No, not at all.
We're safe from him, I mean.
Well, yeah, alright, sure. But,
So what are you guys thinking? Normal stories or crossovers?
crossovers are always more, fun, and by fun, I mean horrible.
That's a fair point.
Yeah,
Crossover time.
let's go.
Wow. I just want to take a second to just look at this. Naruto, the level of crossovers here going on here. Naruto at 1600, right? One Piece at 300, number 2. Followed by 300 Harry Potter stories. Followed by 250 Bleach stories. Followed by 200 Dragon Ball stories. 150 Ruby stories. 100 DxD stories. 100 Pokemon Soul Eater stories. 75 academia stories, Percy Jackson stories, Inuyasha stories, and then it just goes really low from there on out. With everything else.
I see.
Yeah.
It's just like fucking Naruto. 1600. Why?
I mean, you know, two of the biggest shonen series running at the same time.
You know what? That's a fair point.
It does kind of make sense.
Yeah, I kind of just like forgot that Shonen Jump was a thing.
Yeah.
Because I never got it. And I never really understood why you would subscribe to it.
Understandable.
Because I just pirated all my manga.
Same. Yar. Oh, ahoy.
Yar har fiddly dee. A pirate's life for me.
You know, people made the joke of, oh boy, time to take out the pirate hat again. Like a couple years back, actually. Because a bunch of companies were starting to announce of, like, Netflix competitors, like, you know, Hulu and Amazon Prime and whatnot were announcing, you know. And everyone's like, oh, haha, I'm going to take the pirate hat out again because, you know, you used to use the pirate hat because there was so many other companies out there trying to sell you a service that you're like, oh, fuck this shit. And then Netflix came out and you're like, oh, well, I can pay for one service. That's fine. And then everyone tried to copy Netflix. They're like, well, fuck it. Time to get the pirate hat back out again. And now it's like, oh, Paramount, HBO, Disney. It's like, holy shit, literally every channel is coming out with a subscription service now. When's Sci-Fi Plus coming out?
Yo, hey, if that
Give
means
them
I
more
can get another
ideas.
season of Firefly, I'll pay.
You will never receive another season of Firefly.
I'm aware. That doesn't stop me from wanting it, Sneaky.
Also,
it's like wanting
do
another
you really
good...
want another season of Firefly in this day and age? Because, you know, like, half of them are going to be turned trans and gay, and, you know, they're just going to progressify it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get that second season of Firefly, and you're gonna be like, no, I actually didn't want this second season of Firefly.
It's gonna be a shell of its former self. If even that. Some sort of fucking butchered meat puppet of a show.
Max here has done everyone a grand sacrificial service, and he went and watched Genlock Season 2.
No.
Brave.
I skipped through episode 1 and episode 4. I don't even know what the hell happened in 2 and 3. In 4, I regret skipping through.
Like I said, grand sacrificial service. So Max was telling me about how in Genlock Season 2 there's a sex scene.
Oh god.
Really? Why?
Because they're on HBO.
That's literally the only reason I could come up with. It's HBO, so they have to use that.
You gotta be adult, you know.
Yo, it's like when Amazon's Wheel of Time was like, yo, we need a sex scene. No, you don't. There was like... Okay, I mean this truly. There was like no sex in the Wheel of Time until they got to like book like 7, like, because they were like, what if we had actual people have actual character growth and have an actual relationship where they came to love each other and then, you know, actually made love, and it wasn't just some pathetic, angry, hollow shell of people fucking to fuck so George R.R. Martin can get his tiny little dick hard.
More or less. Firefly, the based files, they make it look progressive with trans characters, then each episode when the trans... Oh my god.
No, that'd be something.
Do they compose 42% of the group?
Well, not for long.
Oh, Christ. Anyway, so, Fairy tale crossovers. Warhammer.
Wait. Oh, yes, let's go, baby.
You sure
This is gonna be a steaming pile of garbage. I can't wait.
Twilight Mothers. Having foreseen a vision of the end times and its cause, Queen Ariel, cringe, puts forth a plan to stop the apocalypse from ever occurring. Which, of course, because an elf is doing it, means it'll now occur twice as hard.
Only for some
Oy vey.
reason, a deity of lust will be born.
Fucking elves. Literally.
Fucking tree huggers.
No,
those are
no,
different
they are
elves.
not tree huggers. They are tree
Oh.
humpers.
Well, yeah. I mean, close enough.
In Warhammer,
No.
there's three groups of elves. There's the tree fuckers, there's the normal elves, and then there's the everyone hates Raymond.
Fair enough.
Everyone
Well,
hates
no,
the
they're
third
all
group.
no. You know what? There's the fourth group. The ones that live on a boat and don't fuck with anybody.
Oh, that's right. There is that one group. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're the one group of elves that nobody hates. Because all they do is live on their boats.
Aside from all the other elves. All the other
Yes,
elves hate them.
all the other elves hate them. But these guys just live on their boat and nobody cares.
Yeah.
And it's all Gucci.
Sending forth her trusted subordinates, which means obviously backstabbers, the Sisters of Twilight.
No, the Sisters of Twilight are actually not backstabbers.
I'm aware. Queen Ariel and the Sisters of Twilight. Wait, hold on. I thought Ariel was the High Elf Queen.
Alariel is the High Elf Queen.
Okay, just making sure that the High Elf Queen is indeed the High Elf Queen, and that her subordinates are the Wood Elf sisters.
It's complicated, but yes, they work for Alariel.
Okay, elf politics, got it. To retrieve the child that'll become the next ever chosen of chaos to conduct her plan.
Wait, hold on, Alario. Your grand plan to stop the apocalypse is to kidnap Archeon the Ever Whiny.
No, it looks like, they end up in Fairy Tale?
I'm not sure why.
Anyway, so like I said and accurately predicted, because an elf tried to do something, they obviously made everything worse. And
Now,
apparently...
to be fair,
yeah.
the elves are kinda ultra cursed in the Warhammer unit. Like, the elves that are genuinely trying to do good things didn't actually try to make things worse. They're just uber cursed.
Well, to be fair as well, they're also incredibly snotty pricks, and maybe if they stopped being literal donkey fuckers for 10 seconds, everyone else would have a less negative opinion of them.
I was gonna say, the only one I know of that is not in fact a donkey fucker is Tyrion, who should be the most donkey fuckingest of them, but he's not.
Yeah, it is absolutely amazing how incompetently haunty they are. Like, it is impressive that in the Warhammer universe, the elves are more incompetent and yet somehow more up their own asses than the goddamn von Karstein vampires who have failed every campaign ever.
The only person who has failed more than the von Karsteins is a dude named Abaddon, and he doesn't exist for another 40,000 years.
It's honestly impressive.
Abaddon, don't ask me about the first 13.
You know, I gotta say though, in Warhammer Total War, it's fairly amusing though, because sometimes you'll be playing co-op and you'll be playing Order Tide and you'll be going pretty well, and you're like, all right, well, how are the elves doing over there on their magical donut? Oh, all of the elves are dead. Good job, elves. You fucking useless pieces of shit.
Yo, I was playing a game, and somehow, I don't know how, like, oh my god, Safari controls the donut. They killed Tyrion.
What the fuck? See, that's as weird as the one campaign that Noah's Hair and I are currently playing, where the Border Princes have beaten all of the orcs and have taken control of the wastelands, and Astalia has beaten Skyer.
What? What?
Yeah, we're all just like, what the fuck? So basically, Border Princes are supposed to lose to orcs, and they're basically a buffer faction to buy you time to finish up doing stuff in your area before the orcs start moving north. And Astalia is the same thing for the Skaven. And yet somehow these two chump buffer factions have managed to beat the factions that were supposed to kill them. And we're kind of just like, what the fuck happened? What the goddamn hell is going on here?
Yo, I think my personal favorite is the time that I was playing the Wood Elves. So
Yeah.
I was ignoring, like,
Literally
everything
everyone.
that was happening.
Yeah.
And then chaos happens, and I'm like, alright, I gotta actually pay attention to the world.
Yeah.
So out I go into the world.
Yeah.
And I decide I'm gonna deal with chaos at the tip of the world first.
Sure.
Because those are the most annoying ones, and they'll spend all day beating up the Dark Elves and getting super strong if I don't take care of them.
Sure.
So I go up there, and I expect to find the Dark Elves, maybe getting their butts kicked a little bit. I find no Dark Elves. Instead, I find a Lethanar ambushing the last Chaos army.
Alright.
He dies in every campaign, but this campaign, no. Like, and here's the thing, I didn't even notice because, like, Alith Anar dies so frequently that you just don't even pay attention to Alith Anar's death message.
Yeah, you really don't, no.
It's like, oh, the Shadow Elves lost.
Big
This
surprise.
is expected.
Yeah, because they literally declare war on everyone on that continent, and it's just like, wow, they lost. Talker. Honestly, one of the most terrifying moments I ever had in a game. I was doing Mortal Empires, and I was in the old world, and I'm doing pretty good, cleaning up decently. I'm like, how's the new world doing? Skaven. One Skaven faction controlled all of the new world.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh. Oh no.
Oh dear.
That's going to be a problem. So anyway, this is chapter 1. 30 chapters, 4K words per chapter, updates fairly fast because it first got published in January 19th, so 30 chapters in about a year.
That's
4K words each. It's a fair update, right?
It's
So,
quite fair, actually. Like,
this might actually be a good story, but not because it's fairy tale. But you know, it might be a good story. Aside from being a fairy tale crossover.
No. Oh no. Literally the first sentence of the author's note
Indeed.
gave me crippling PTSD.
This
Oh.
is probably a story no one expected. No, we about expected everything at this point. Oh, only 37 favorites. Ooh.
Mm.
For a story that's been updating regularly every single month for the past year, that, children, is what we call a red flag. It's not good stats. That's not good stats. Maybe written dog shit? Yeah, it'll be a very neat pile of dog shit. So, for those of you who do not know, there is a fanfic writer named Gamer95. Do they say the N-word a lot? And they have a boatload of
Unfortunately
stories
not.
where
Yeah.
they have Harry Potter be adopted by females of other franchises. It's pretty cringe, to be honest. It sounds a lot like Sakura Demon Alchemist. And she can't write for shit.
2014. Different times.
Indeed.
Oh, I think it was
Typically-
2014. I don't remember.
The way they write the fics are... That's not how you use a semicolon, author. That's actually a moment you would use a colon. Because you're outlining what something is. Harry is heavily abused by his aunt and uncle, more than canon. They get beaten up or arrested or even killed. Then Harry gets adopted by a female figure in a world where things are rather happy and goes well for a little wizard. That's the basic premise for all these stories with very minor variation. Despite that, they're all fairly wholesome and a rather good read. I highly doubt that because I honestly don't consider a story a good read if it just abruptly dies because the author started up 20 more. Not calling out anyone, I'm just saying. I don't recommend them if you want something deep or if you don't like bashing. I mean, the Dursley family is fairly awful. I don't know why people are like, no, they have to be literally some of the worst child abusers in history. It's like, okay, buddy.
Yeah.
They're already bad people. More importantly, everybody knows it.
Yeah, you really don't need to go much further. There's admittedly some bashing of the Dursley family within few exceptions of Dudley, but I do recommend them all if you like happy endings or want to read stories where it's happy at all. Okay, so I do want to say I'm really disappointed about one happy story by that Enterprise guy.
Is he trying to get me to rent a car?
No, it's that one story where Harry is in the Percy Jackson universe. I don't know if Arn's remembering this at all.
Oh yeah.
It was a really fluffy story. Basically, Harry is brought to New York City in the Percy Jackson universe by Vernon because he got a quote-unquote all-expense-paid trip to visit New York City to talk business with someone in America who wanted to partner with Grunnings. And then Vernon gives Harry $50 and tells him to basically fuck off and, you know, go have fun in New York City. And then while Harry's doing that, he bucks off back to Britain. And so then Harry becomes a bum, you know, goes around in the back alleys, eats rotting food, is ratty and dirty, and then he squatter, there we go. And then he prays really hard or something, and suddenly he gets a pre-emotion that he should go run into this one really tall building and take the elevator all the way to the top. And a bunch of events just happen to align to allow him to do all of this. You know, he ends up in Mount Olympus magically, and he manages to somehow wander his way all the way into the unused section of Mount Olympus, and he finds a temple that's long, dusty, and unused, and he manages to get the Titan of the Sun, Helios' permission to use the temple, after he reawakens them by saying thank you to them just in time. And basically for the first like good 30 or so chapters, a lot of really convenient things happen to Harry, which then the author later reveals. And it's a very fluffy and wholesome story up until this point. And then the author reveals that the reason why all these coincidences happen to occur was because Lily was actually the human incarnation, because that's a thing that gods can do in PJO, is they can split off a part of themselves and incarnate them as a human, so they can get a better perspective of common mortal lives or something.
No, that literally doesn't happen. Like, there's one deity who got turned into a mortal as a punishment by his dad.
Yeah,
That's
so
Apollo.
basically, this is the AU, I guess, then. This is an AU, I guess, because apparently that's things that people do in this AU. So yeah, anyway,
I mean, here's the thing. Technically, any of them could, but
yeah,
they don't
Lily,
lose their
Lily
deific
Potter's,
powers.
yeah,
so
Lily
they don't
Potter
learn
is
anything.
actually goddess of fate. And that's why Harry has been getting really lucky and getting, you know, all the good stuff that's been happening to him recently. Is because the Dursleys beat him so badly that his luck tanks were overfilled. And so that's why he got super lucky with everything.
That makes no sense, because boy, have I got news for you. If that was the case, there's
Goddess
like
of luck. Oh, sorry, my bad. Goddess of luck, not fate. Yeah. And like I said, like the first 30 chapters were okay. They was very wholesome, fluffy, and the author didn't get really too serious about it. And that was fine, because it was like, okay, as long as the author's not getting super serious about the story, I can wave away a bunch of author fiat of why everything happens, you know? So it's like, yeah, sure, it's just wholesomely fluff stuff. So it's like, fine, whatever. But that changes around chapter 35-ish, where the author suddenly gets very serious about the story and the plot and everything going on in it. And suddenly Lily is forbidden from ever speaking with Harry ever again. But they secretly get around it by exchanging letters.
Wouldn't Hermes have something to say about that?
Yes, he supports it.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does with all his kids, because technically speaking, he's just delivering them a letter. And Lily is Hermes' daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, despite Harry being immortal on Mount Olympus, every single god loves him. And normally this is just normal wholesome fluff stuff and nothing's really coming out of it besides the gods just being nice to this orphan child who was horribly beaten and then managed to survive and thrive on Mount Olympus. And yeah, so there's that. And then when the story started getting serious, all of a sudden all the gods came out of the woodwork to start giving Harry blessings and weapons and armor and training and a whole bunch of shit. And it got really fucking dumb. And they all started having competitions of who could give Harry the most best stuff. And then Harry got super fucking arrogant, but the author kept writing them as like this. Like, from the author's perspective, Harry was not being changed by any of this, and this was just, you know, Harry still being wholesome and fluffy and blah blah blah. But from anyone else's perspective, Harry was acting like a little shit. And you know, Harry gets taught magic by the old god of magic. Not the old gods, but like the older god of magic. Yeah.
Some Eldritch Horror would have spiced it right back up.
Yeah, except there was a moment of that where the old god of magic was like, "Hey Harry, I'm going to teach you magic," and he's like, "Cool." And he's like, "Is there any shortcuts to power?" And the god's like, "Well, hold on. There is shortcuts to power, but shortcuts to power are always going to have massive backfires that will absolutely bite you in the ass and ruin you. And so because I don't want to see you get absolutely annihilated by being bitten in the ass, I'm not going to show you these shortcuts to power. And then he throws a temper tantrum, and the god's like, fine, I'll show you the shortcut. Just don't do it. And then he does it right in front of the god, right after being shown the shortcut. And then he gets saved by the god. And he's like, well, good. Well, the shortcut worked for you, and you have no negatives to it. And then he throws another temper tantrum to be taught more magic, and so the god teaches him more magic. And he's like, now don't do anything bad with this. And then he goes bad things with it, and God's like, I said don't do anything bad with it, so I'm going to teach you more magic as a punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got really fucking dumb. And then we all stopped reading it.
Yep.
Latest chapter now has aliens invading.
That's great.
That's really fucking dumb. And aliens are teaching Harry human magic spells. Cool. No, they're invading. I don't care what you say. They're invading.
Sneaky, they're peacefully occupying.
Peacefully occupy some lead into them. Yeah, so anyway, back on track. Yeah, that was a really wholesome, fluffy story that got absolutely ruined by the author not knowing where to take it, so they just decided to ruin the story instead of ending it or something. I think it's because they started a Patreon account, and so they're getting paid to extend the story now. Which isn't a big shocker. Getting back on track, they also inspired me to do the same thing, and by that I mean the adoptive mother story trope, but with my own ideas. Because I want to see how I do with this type of storytelling, and I want to differentiate myself from Gamer95. Which, apparently, according to chat, Gamer95 has 233 stories, and only 14 of them are finished. Which isn't great. Not a good ratio. Harry
That, children, is
does
what
a
we
deep
call
dive into
bad.
magic, and the aliens notice Harry, so they teach him hockey from DBZ. That is extremely cringe.
That is the third most cursed thing I've heard in a while. Not like of all time, but in a hot minute.
My variation of this idea is to have Warhammer characters be adopted by Warhammer characters, and then have them all be transported to not Warhammer.
What?
That's the second most cringe thing I've heard today. And to be honest, I'm surprised Gamer95 didn't do Warhammer adoption stories yet. Well, I'm not. Because Warhammer's not a great universe to adopt a child into. Either of them.
Or from.
40K or fantasy. Both of them are really shit universes. Well, the problem with adopting a character from the Warhammer universe, either one, is they have nothing going for them. Like, if you say take a magic user or a potential magic user because you're adopting a child, or a psyker, and you take them from their respective universes and you bring them into, say, Harry Potter or Naruto or Fairy Tale or whatever, right? The psyker's not going to have a warp to manipulate. The mage isn't gonna have winds of magic to use.
Like, here's the thing. Either they won't, in which case they can't do anything, or they will, which is really bad.
Yeah, because in either of those cases, that means the Chaos Gods exist, which...
They might not be awake yet, but they exist, and you can bet someone actively using psychic powers is going to wake them up.
or draw their attention to the area. If your excuse is, oh, no one on this planet is psychically active, so there's no reverberations in the warp here, so the psychic
Which, to
gods
be
didn't
fair,
know
that is
this
the
place was
entire
populated.
reason the Tau haven't been noticed.
Is that really?
Oh yeah,
They're all nulls.
No, the Tau aren't nulls. They just have. Okay, I'm trying to think of it this way. Think of an Eldar as like a 5-star soul. Okay?
Yeah.
And a human is like, they can be anywhere from a 5 to a 3.
Right.
And an orc is like a 2. You can't even get it. But it's like a 2.
Right.
And then you have the Tau, who are so psychically dead that they only barely qualify as alive.
That's hilarious. Wait, isn't their whole society built off of a psychic puppeteering structure?
Kind of. The ethereals are the only ones that are psychically active, and they are the smallest cased.
Right, but wouldn't that, like...
No, because, like, it's like searching for... It's like trying to find a whole potato chip in a bag of crumbs. Why bother?
Okay, I mean, that's fair, I guess.
Because literally... Because, okay, so I was on a bit of a 40k kick, and
Right.
I located the Farsight books. Because, you know, Farsight's a pretty chill dude. You know, except for being a weeby space commie, but he's still pretty chill. And so the first encounter Farsight ever had with the warp was a minor herald of the Changer of Ways who had failed Papa one too many times. And so do you want to know what Tzeentch cursed him with?
What?
You must always tell the truth.
Alright, that's pretty funny.
It is. But literally, this guy took over one of the water case, you know, the weird diplomat people.
Yeah.
And he literally said to Farsight's face, "You are such a tiny, dull, psychically uninteresting race that none of us have bothered with you. The only reason I'm bothering with it is because if I can trick all of you into falling to chaos, then Daddy might like me again."
Alright, fair enough.
But like he just straight out says to him, "You are all a bunch of psychically dead, uninteresting dullards."
I do love that the lore as to why Tau exist is because literally everyone else is too busy trying to kill everyone else to bother with them.
No one could get to them.
Like, the one time the Imperium had enough time... Oh, we lost Arn. Excellent. Good.
The Imperium didn't even technically have time. They just decided to make time.
Yes. It's basically the same thing. The one time the Imperium actually bothered to pay attention to the Tau, it resulted in a decisive Imperial victory.
And the only reason the Imperials left was Hive Fleet Kraken.
They had more important things to kill.
Which, in the Imperium's defense, it was literally the first time they had ever encountered the Nids. So at first they were like, yeah, we'll crush these Xenos, and then we'll crush these Xenos. And then they went, these Xenos are very difficult to crush.
I mean, to be fair, though, there has been success against the Tyranids. It's just, there is unfortunately more Tyranids than you can succeed against.
No. This was the first time. This was Kraken. So yeah, Kraken kicked their ass.
I know, but what I'm saying is you can. And there has been success since then. It's just,
And they have this nasty habit of going, hey, we might lose. What if we sent, like, just like 50,000 guys off to find some place to beat up.
Yeah. I do like 40k. It's a cool universe. But anyway, point being is that taking 40k characters, or fantasy characters, and putting them outside of Warhammer is just really it produces stupid, because either
Fantasy
you end up
is marginally happier than
Well, yeah,
normal
but
40k
point being
right up
though-
until the end times.
right. But my point is that the special powers of the Warhammer respective universes are unique to the Warhammer respective universes. It's not like an energy that's developed inside their bodies that they can then expend. Like, if, say, Goku ends up in DC or something, he'll still have access to all his Saiyan powers because his Saiyan powers come from him, not like the universe chi flow or something.
Yeah. As we've said time and again, if you take a Skyrim character out of Skyrim, they
Technically,
can't
they
use
should lose their magic.
magic.
Yeah.
Because
but-
magic comes from a hole in reality. Well,
Yeah.
several million holes in reality, but that's besides the point.
Technically speaking, you also canonically generate a little bit of magic by existing, but the fandom, the deep dive autistic fandom that I have contact with is kind of really on the fence whether people and animals generate that magic normally. If they were taken out of, say, the rays of the quote-unquote sun, which is actually a giant hole in reality, bathing people in creation rays. God, Elder Scrolls lore is such a trip.
That's because the guy who wrote it was high.
Extremely high.
Immensely, impossibly high.
I know. But point being is that everyone's kind of like on the fence of like, is that like just people store the energy that they're getting from the sun, quote unquote, or like if they eat the plant which has been consuming all of this sun energy to grow, and that's how they get the energy inside them. So like, do people actually have a natural regeneration rate of magicka because they exist as a creature, or is it just because of what they eat and they're in the environment they're in?
That was fucking annoying.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah,
worry.
ISP decided that maintenance was a good thing to do right about now.
Don't worry, we just talked a shit ton of Warhammer stuff that you could not give a fuck about.
Oh.
So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow, for once my ISP actually saved me from a lot of boredom. Thanks.
Yes.
But point being is that you could get away with saying they still have access to magic, but at the same time, it's not going to be the same sort of regen that you would see normally from people in Skyrim. But it's like, but yeah, it's like, the point is that if you take someone from the Warhammer universe and you put them inside not the Warhammer universe, they're not going to have any of their powers, which means they're going to be a normal ass person in insert fantasy or sci-fi universe here. And that's just boring. That's like, what if Superman lived on Krypton? Oh, well, I guess he'll, serve coffee as a barista or some shit. Because he's not Superman.
Actually, it's a lot more boring than that. It would be he's going to be whatever he was genetically engineered to be, which in the case of it, like, he was either going to be a scientist or whatever his mother was, which, depending on which versions of Superman, is a scientist, a political leader, an artist, or a prostitute.
Interesting. That last one is something else.
Superho, anyone?
Indeed. But point being is that
Oh, but I do want to say one thing on that. That was because they're like, oh, no. What you're going to do is genetically in your blood. So literally, by Kryptonian logic, if Kal-El had been launched to Earth and gotten the wrong set of genes, he literally would have been Superho.
Is that how we got female Superman?
No. There is no female Superman. We've got Supergirl,
We also got Super Dog.
I was gonna say we've
Yeah.
got Super Dog, we've got Supergirl, we've got Superboy, we've got Superboy Prime, we've got Power Girl, who is a different version of Supergirl that grew up in an alternate reality.
Of course.
And then her reality got destroyed in the Crisis on Infinite Earths, but she wasn't on in her reality plane when it died because she was
Obviously.
trying to stop the Anti-Monitor. So reality just kind of squeaked her into the cracks because it's like, well, shit, we got to make this puzzle piece fit somehow. Just shove it in there, boys.
They could probably do some of the physical-based stuff that extends to superhuman with their internal magic if they tried. I doubt they could sling spells around that much, though. Yeah, pretty much. And that's sort of how it would go for anyone from 40k or anyone from fantasy, is that, yeah, they would still have their, like, superhuman attributes that could make them, you know, whip around a war hammer according to fantasy standards, because holy shit, those things are heavy. Almost
Yeah.
as heavy as Ruby's rifle.
We're not talking sneaky. We're not going there. Anyway, and as someone pointed out, if you were to send a Space Marine back in time, that Space Marine is still a Space Marine.
Yeah, no, like, don't get me wrong, there's not that interesting of a story. Because it's like, oh yeah, this really buff guy went and Conan on things. It's like, yeah, it's cool, but we already have a story about that. It's called Conan.
And that one's got titties.
That one's got more
Indeed.
tits than you'll ever be able to write.
Exactly.
Sneaky's mic dies? No. No, my mic does not die. Do not question Mike. Honestly, I'm just impressed that my mic has lasted this long, because I bought this for this podcast. Which means that this mic is now approaching 6 years old,
Yeesh.
which is pretty good because this
Yeah.
mic only cost me $20. The phantom power supply for it was actually more expensive than this mic.
I see.
Yes. So, anyway, I don't understand why people don't take more characters from Warhammer and put them into other stories. I know that 40k doesn't have many well-known female characters with the exception of Eldar and Tau. No.
Lairs in Saint Celestine.
Yeah, I mean, we got a couple characters, my dude. It's just
Glares in Inquisitor Vale. Glares in like 30 or 40 Sister of Battle characters who have books. Regretfully, I'm going to have to glare in Commissar Severina Rain. And then there's like,
I mean, I'm just
like,
just
honestly,
want to point out as well, with 40k, you don't actually have to use a named character. You can just invent a character.
that is, spoiler, that's the whole fucking point of 40k.
Yeah, like when you're talking in populations of billions of trillions, you can in fact just get away with inventing an OC for your stories.
Like,
Imagine that.
I'm genuinely not shitposting here. A bunch of the best 40k books are just that. Gaunt's Ghosts, Caiaphas Cain, Commissar motherfucking Yerrick.
Yeah, like, they aren't Games Workshop canon. Like, they weren't invented by Games Workshop. Someone got contracted to write a book for 40k. They invented an OC. OC was popular, and then Games Workshop was like, we can make a religion out of this.
Like, Colonel Ironhand Strachan. There's like 7 or 6 people from Cadia. Farsight. Literally, guys, what if I made like the entire existence of the Tau. Guy, what if I made what if I made samurai space communists who were being mind controlled?
Like, I just want to point out that 40K is actually one of the few fandoms? No, it's not the right word. Settings. 40K is one of the few settings where you'll actually probably get more interest in your story if you make an OC that isn't trash than if
Yeah.
you were like, this is my Commissar Yurik story. Because people are going to come in and be like, oh, cool, Commissar Yurik. They're going to come in and be like, this isn't fucking Commissar Yurik. And then they're going to hate it. Because everyone has their idea about how Commissar Yurik is. And the only person that's allowed, quote unquote, to write Commissar Yurik is the guy who wrote fucking Commissar Yurik. Because there's so many fucking characters, you're actually just better off making your own. Warhammer Fantasy, however, on the flip side, is a little bit less tolerant on that. Because it is, you know, fantasy, which means it's sort of medieval, which means that most of the named characters are actually characters in positions of power. And that's really the only way you can possibly have a character that's named and important enough and politically connected enough to do things in a medieval setting.
But, like, guess what? 40K is so big and so enormous that you can do literally whatever you want. You can go wherever you want.
I'm actually shocked that 40K is as niche as it still is.
I mean, there's some stuff in 40K that's pretty out there. Also, it's ultra edgy.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, you know how you saw how popular Worm was. You can't really use edgy as an excuse as to why people don't like it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, Worm technically doesn't start with the locker scene. It technically starts several months after the locker scene. But given how the fandom only really knows the locker scene, which technically never happened in Worm, edgy is kind of the draw. The fandom literally invented the edgy scene the author never put in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like I said, it's just like, I can sort of understand settings like Shadowrun, because that's a little bit like effort you gotta put into it, because a lot of the lore is kind of really important to understanding what the fuck's going on in Shadowrun. But with 40K, there is so much shit happening all the time that you really don't need to know much of the lore beyond everyone is shooting at each other, and if you pick a planet, someone's shooting someone there.
Also, everything is simultaneously nobody's fault and every single person's fault.
Yeah, so like there's not a lot of hard lore you need to absolutely learn to get interested in it, which is, you would think with all of the fandom of Worm proving my point, and that a majority of people don't even read the story they're fans of. I die inside. You would think that would make Warhammer a more fan-friendly setting, but it's just not, and it baffles me. But, you know, don't worry, Games Workshop's busy ruining it, so we don't have to worry about that long. Blah blah blah.
No,
female characters
can
don't
I
exist.
take a second?
Yeah.
I know we joke about
Yeah.
like, oh, I hope X company goes out of business and we buy the rights. I will buy the rights to 40 fucking K. I'll be like, all right, first things first. First things first, boys. We're getting a new Kane. My first directive: give me a new Commissar Kane book. Second thing, all of the codexes will be available for $15 as an actual PDF that you don't need an EPUB reader. And we're making the models out of plastic, and we're not charging people $85 for 5 models that aren't even painted.
Another key factor is if you send in a picture of you burning black library books, you get a discount.
Oh, squats are back, boys.
Squats are back. Orcs use hot rods again. Fuck it, let's go.
Squats are back. Orcs are on hot rod. It's definitely still the Eldar's fault. Oh, and by the way, the Necrons are super cool sci-fi nerds again. They don't have a god.
God. That would be funny. But, Games Workshop's hard at work. But unfortunately, it looks like Rooster Teeth is, in fact, Operation by Rooster Teeth will not be able to go through. Because,
if you were a less terrible person and didn't have this podcast, you probably could have just launched a Kickstarter called Save Ruby.
Oh, shit, you got a point.
That
Max
ship
is
has
only
long
barely associated
sailed.
with this show, and he's a good person. I bet we can make it work if Max does it.
Alright, Max, you need to go make a Kickstarter called Save Ruby. We're gonna raise money to buy Ruby from Rooster Teeth.
I'll put that right by the Kevlar Bible notes. Don't you worry.
God damn
No,
it,
listen.
Max. We're being serious here.
Yeah. Also, the very first thing in the very first episode will be, this is a redo. Everything Miles and Carrie wrote after season 3 doesn't exist. Go home.
The first tweet from the company will be us pissing on the documents.
No, that'll get us banned from Twitter.
No, it won't.
You're right. We'll say that they're Trump documents.
This is the piss dossier.
Yes. Atin Miller, of
Are
course.
purple orcs a thing? No, purple orcs aren't a thing. I don't care how many times people report seeing purple orcs. There is no such thing as a purple orc. Everyone knows that. Stop trying to find them.
They don't exist.
The R. Kelly documents. It's evidence leading to the arrest of Clinton. They could easily do that type of storytelling with the fantasy Warhammer characters, because there's so many good motherly figures in Warhammer Fantasy, like Isabel von Karstein, Valkia the
And
Bloody.
whoever Gortrik's mom was.
Also, are you really just gonna straight out name some of the worst fucking female characters in Warhammer Fantasy? I don't think lots of Warhammer fans will enjoy Valkia being portrayed as a motherly
Were
figure.
they serious about Isabella von Karstein?
Yes, they seriously named Isabella von Karstein the psycho bitch murderer of psycho bitch murderers as a potential motherly figure. Yes.
Author? Do we really need to talk about Isabella von Karstein? I mean, apparently we do because you're an idiot.
Freud gains in strength.
No, I'm pretty sure Freud does not gain in strength from Isabella von Karstein, Sneaky.
Isn't Valkia the Bloody the Bride of Corn? Yes. Yes, isn't she a great motherly figure? The Bride of Corn, who would probably actually sacrifice the child because it would be funny. Also, it does not care where the blood flows. Yes. Valkia the Bloody is just screams to me. Absolutely a motherly figure who would adopt someone out of the kindness of her heart. And
literally,
Ariel.
the only reason. Okay, look, I'll give you that. I'll grant you, Alariel is in fact a kind motherly figure, but that's one.
Well, I mean, yes, but also at the same time, she would never be in a position to find someone to adopt. Because she is literally kept in a secluded area away from literally anything that could ever harm her, because she's the everlasting queen, and as long as she's alive, so much shit doesn't go wrong. And if she dies before her princess daughter can age up to take on the mantle of being the Ever Queen, shit goes really fucking bad. As in, like, the apocalypse scenario starts for Warhammer Fantasy bad. And I don't mean end times. End times is different. If the Ever Queen dies before the Ever Princess is old enough to take the throne, shit gets bad.
Real bad, boys.
So, the elves, understandably, in the single moment of their only brain cell they've ever been able to put together, said, we should keep the Ever Queen away from anything that could literally ever harm her.
We should lock her in a magical forest from which she is not allowed to leave, and anyone who attempts to try to make her leave
Dies.
gets murdered. Horribly.
Yeah. So she's not exactly in a position to go, oh no, this poor Warhammer orphan, let me adopt you and then accidentally get whisked away to another world. Which, understandably, the author does not write that story. But for some reason, they still say, I don't understand why people aren't doing it with this character. So I'm not really confident in this author's ability to rub brain cells together to produce electricity. Back on track for the third time now in this lengthy author's note that's made us go off on several tangents because of how dumb the author is being. The idea of this particular story is that the Sisters of Twilight, that no one really cares about, to be honest, the adopted mothers to the Archeon, the ever-chosen since his birth, to turn him into a better human so he doesn't start the end times. Okay, again, problem here is the ever-chosen is the ever-chosen. It doesn't need to be Archeon. Archeon was just conveniently there. So they all said, fuck it. Let's go. And
The
I wish
Ever-Chosen
I was kidding.
is literally like a melange hodgepodge assembly of hate, demons, and teenaged angst.
I mean, that too. But it's also a position. It's not a fate. Anyone can become the Ever-Chosen.
Yeah.
Archeon just happened to be that person who did. So this is what I was making fun of with this author, and that I don't know if he intentionally did it, but it's a very elf plot of let's kidnap the person that's gonna do this thing. Except the problem is they're kidnapping the person, not the position, but the position is the thing that does it. So yeah, they kidnapped Archeon, so he's not going to be the Ever-Chosen. Problem here is someone is still going to be the Ever-Chosen, and they're still going to kick off the end times. The end times are something even the lizards, the people who literally have a map of creation at their fingertips,
Can't stop.
they have just accepted that the end times are going to happen and that the only thing they can do is simply get ready for it.
Which they didn't even do that particularly well, if we're being honest.
To be fair, the lizards have never done anything with speed. They're not great at that. Because they live for such a long time. Their leaders live for such a long time that they kind of don't know. This is like an actual understandable moment of the leaders live for so long they're not really good with remembering how long it takes to do things. And all of the non-leaders are dumb. Literally. And they all trust their leaders so much that they won't start doing things until the leaders say it's time to do things. So they all kind of just sit there, not doing things, until the leaders wake up and go, oh hey, we should probably start preparing for the end times. That's gonna happen in like 10 years, right? No, it's going to happen in 2 months.
Oh.
Guards would kill any child who ends up near her. True. Also, good idea for an assassination attempt. Get her to adopt a child that's also a magical bomb. Probably has been tried. Oh, hey, we lost the Ever-Chosen, whatever, let's get another one. Yes, that's pretty much how it works. In fact, there is several moments in canon, both, fantasy and, even in the slightly uncanon Total War series, where other characters are straight up just coming up to you if you play as the Ever-Chosen. Other characters will come up to you and go, hey, yeah, so I was told that if I killed you, I get to become Ever-Chosen, so I'm gonna try and kill you now.
It probably will not work, but I'ma try anyway.
If I don't kill you, I'm gonna die anyway, so here's my best shot. And that is actually how the Ever-Chosen title works. If you can beat the Ever-Chosen, you become the Ever-Chosen. Because if you beat the Ever-Chosen while the Ever-Chosen was the Ever-Chosen, that means the Ever-Chosen was weak, which means they aren't the Ever-Chosen anymore.
Literally, they weren't the real Ever-Chosen.
It was all part of Zinch's plot to find the best Ever-Chosen. But yeah, anyway.
Now, let's be clear. There is one significant advantage to the fact that the Ever-Chosen exists in that manner.
Yeah.
And that is, it's an office. But if that office happens to go, like,
Die.
well,
Yeah.
then, and they're not in the Chaos Waste, and it wasn't done by another Chaos follower, well, now we have options, boys.
Also, it kind of also would kick off a war between all of Chaos again to figure out the Ever-Chosen, and also fuck over all the other Chaos gods, because if the Ever-Chosen's dead, that means they don't have to work together anymore.
And boy, are they happy about that one.
Yeah, the Chaos gods kind of just they win either way. If the Ever-Chosen wins, that means they win, and then they can all have a war without having to worry about other people trying to beat them. If the Ever-Chosen dies, that means they can go have a war, and they don't have to worry about people trying to beat them. So they win either way. Anyway, so no one wants the end times. Fair enough. And before anyone asks me to, I'm not going to make more stories with this premise. It's just going to be this one single story. There's going to be no more stories where Archeon goes with the exact same moments with different mother figures. Well, I'm glad that, author, because it's dumb, but I figure you're doing this not because of the reasons you should be doing it. Anyway, so yeah, this story is just dumb, blah blah blah. Woman's got a baby in her hands, blah blah blah. Rape child, blah blah blah, blah blah, midwife, blah blah. an event that even the Chaos God Zinch couldn't see happening happened, and he was so shocked by it happening that he didn't do anything when it happened. And the Sisters of Twilight discovered this midwife being chased by creatures and killed all the creatures, and then they were like, "Hey, human, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, wow, I can't believe I've been saved by elves." And she's like, "Yep, you've been saved by elves, now give us the child and run away." And so the midwife is like, "Okay, I'm gonna give the elves this child." And then they ran away with the child.
Damn.
Blah, blah, blah. The stranger, meanwhile, was gently taking care of the midwife as the other girl was killing the midwife. So taking care of the baby as the other sister was killing the midwife. So here we go. This is the dumbest shit ever, and I fucking hate it when authors do it. The stranger, meanwhile, was gently taking care of the child as the midwife was being strangled, not doing anything to stop it. Much as she hated to admit it, it was necessary at this point. So the starter sentence is like, okay, fine. Who could possibly be taking a baby? I don't know, author. Is it the Sisters of Twilight, the people you've mentioned multiple times now that are going to go take the baby?
No, they're just gonna kill it.
It's like when an author starts a Naruto story by going, "The mysterious child with whiskers on his cheeks, blonde hair and blue eyes." It's like, golly gee, I wonder who the fuck that could be. It's such a mystery, author. I wonder what his name is. Just use the names. No one is going to read a fairy tale Warhammer crossover story if they don't know Warhammer characters. This isn't a worm section. No one's going to read Warhammer without knowing Warhammer. And if you are only familiar with 40k and you see the word Sisters of Twilight and you decide to read a Warhammer story anyway,
Go dives on the wiki.
you're probably the sort of person who wiki dives. Because you play Warhammer, so you that's probably how you get 90% of your lore anyway.
To be fair, some of the most fun you can have is going to the Warhammer 40k wiki and just slapping that random button 4 or 5
What's
times.
the most fucked up page can I find today?
Ah, yes, we grow babies in vats to kill them, render them brain dead, and then shove trumpets in their mouths, and motors in their butt, and wings on them, and make them fly in doot-doot-doot-doot-doot. And that's a great thing that our church does, says Warhammer 40k.
Sometimes it just be like that.
The mysterious blonde boy with whiskers on his face getting the shit kicked out of him by a screaming crowd. Who could it be? It's a furry about to be hanged. Moving on. But anyway,
Finally.
so back to what I
Peace.
hate and this author doing it. Looking at the other person that committed the deed. So first off, you are starting a new paragraph without declaring the subject, and you're also doing a passive voice. Bad. Don't do that, especially if it's been past tense. Dumb. Looking at the person that committed the deed, she saw a woman dressed similar to her doing it. If the story is being told from the perspective of the stranger now, and you and your sister are dressed very similarly, and your sister just finished killing someone. And you're like, ah, yes, I'm taking care of the baby. Oh, the sound stopped, and you look up to see your sister. The first thing in your head probably isn't going to be, ah, yes, I see my sister is wearing very similar clothes to me today. Despite the fact that we've been likely traveling together for several hours now. I'm just now commenting on their clothing. In my mind. For no apparent reason. I hate it. I hate it when stories do that. I absolutely loathe it when stories do that. That's usually why they don't start off stories with all of the characters already collected together. Just pointing that out. Because that gives the author the ability to be like, oh yeah, then the main character saw X character, and now I can put in what they were wearing, you know, less bluntly than how this author did it. Because the character just saw this other character now, and now I can describe them. Because they just saw them for the first time today. Instead of, you know, like, your literal fucking sister that you've spent your entire life with and likely have been traveling several hours with for now. One just doesn't just go, ah yes, despite you being my family, and despite, you know, spending the entire day with you, now that this story has started, let me gaze upon the clothes you wear and describe them to myself in my mind. Fuck off. I hate it so much. In fact, the other woman looked just like her. You could even mistake them for being sisters. Because they were.
Well, alright. Makes it easy enough, I suppose.
I just, like, the author is literally sitting here having one of the sisters go, ah yes, my sister, she looks just like me, except for the parts that don't look just like me. The parts that don't look just like me are her hair, which is black, while mine is silver, and her eyes, which are gold, but mine are silver. Ah! Also, the classic Hollywood, I'm going to choke them into unconsciousness. Which doesn't work. Like, you can choke people into unconsciousness, but when you stop choking them, they wake back up. Because...
Yeah, unless you choke them long enough.
Well, yeah, if you choke them long enough for them to die, they do not, in fact, wake back up.
Impressively enough.
Yes. And the reason
People die when they are killed.
choking someone into unconsciousness works is because you cut blood off to the brain. And so the brain goes, oh shit, I'm not getting blood. Emergency shutdown mode, engage. So your brain shuts down because it's not getting blood, and it tries to preserve the oxygen it does have. And so then when you stop being choked and the blood starts flowing again, the brain goes, okay, I can start working again now. And then you wake up. And blood flows pretty quickly. So you wake up like in under a minute. Yeah, Evan, yeah, that's another good point. If the Sisters of Twilight's chokeholding someone and you're a normal civilian midwife, your throat's probably crushed. Your neck is paste. That's a fair point. Yes. But don't worry. Despite them punching her throat out, she's only unconscious. Because this is a Yakuza game now. And this is just cringe. Are you done yet? We have to deliver the spawn to the queen so she can get rid of the blasted thing and prevent the dark destiny from being completed. Rape spawn though he may be, and destined destroyer of world he might be, he is still merely a child right now, sister. We must treat him gently. I mean, at least you got them arguing. So, 1 point out of 10 for the author. I just hated all of this. You can all blame Atin for this. And now we're in 30 minutes have gone by. And he is the sole source of blame here. Let's see, let's go with Legend of Zelda. I haven't done that in a while. Let's do a plain Legend of Zelda story. I'm sure they're fairly stupid. Wild Zaylink. The hell is a Zaylink?
Oh, I get it. Zelda Link pairing. Ship name.
Isn't that just called canon?
Yes, yes it is.
So why would there be a pairing name for that?
Because people are fucking retarded.
That's fair enough, I'll take it. A Couple of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, Zelda times Link story. This is all the title, by the way. That's still in the title. That is the title. Breath of the Wild, colon. Zelda immediately wants to rebuild Hyrule, but 100 years have passed and there's no throne anymore. No, I played Breath of the Wild, and I'm pretty sure if Zelda went around to the various villages and were like, yo, hey guys, I'm Hyrule, everyone would probably be like, oh cool. Okay. We'll be part of Hyrule again. Cause you know, it's fucking Zelda.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's a weird premise, but okay. She must now live the life of a normal girl. Zelda?
I guess so.
Zelda must now live the life of a normal girl despite still being the Princess of Hyrule, having all the powers of Zelda, and being the heir to the Triforce of Wisdom. Having lost none of these powers, abilities, or experience, she must now live life as a farm girl. Alright, author.
Cool.
If you say so. Zelda decides to go travel the world with Link. Because Link would leave Zelda. Apparently. According to this author, Link would just leave Zelda if she didn't go with him. Breath of the Wild Link is literally that Russian meme of the guy wearing the really heavy helmet, where it's like, I have no memories, I do not know where I am, I do not know who I am, all I know is I must kill. That is literally Breath of the Wild Link, where it's like, I don't know who I am, I have no memories of anything, all I know is that I have to go save Zelda and kill the pink thing. That's Breath of the Wild Link. That Breath of the Wild Link is like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave Zelda if she doesn't come with me on my worldly travels.
Yeah, no.
Okay, buddy. Imagine Queen Elizabeth doing the traveling of the land, begging for the return of the Empire. Together, they embark on their quest in a new monarch-free Hyrule. Cringe. Except Zelda has one thing on her mind. Does she still love Link? Yes? I mean, there is the saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder or some shit. I'm probably getting the saying wrong, but it's like that
No, you
general
are getting
idea.
it correct.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting correct, okay. If you are literally, through your sheer force of will, battling darkness for... How long was Link asleep? 100 years?
Yeah.
least.
Oh, Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild, 100.
Yeah, Breath of the
Well,
Wild.
Pretty much.
To be fair, probably like at least 50 of those were spent in like a healing coma.
I don't really care. I just want to know time period between Zelda saying I'm gonna seal Calamity with my body and Link waking up and saving her.
Oh, 100 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're literally battling the root of darkness for 100 years with nothing but your sheer force of will, I'm going to armchair psychology this one. Just a rough ballpark here. You're probably going to fall back on the things you truly care about to keep you going.
Maybe.
Just throwing that out there as just a ballpark guess. Somebody would probably be thinking about the things and the reasons why they need to keep going despite battling the literal concept of hate, rage, and destruction for 100 years using only their own mind. Very mortal human mind. Human, in quotations, mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She also, even aside from that, she also has 100 years to think about this. This is not a new development either. They were kind of a thing before the Calamity happened. She had 100 years to think about, do I really care that much about Link? She doesn't really need to worry about. Yes. I hate the entire premise of this story. And not because it's like excessively dumb or something. It's just saying things, and it's like everything you have just said wouldn't happen. Breath of the Wild Link wouldn't just abandon Zelda after saving her. Zelda would not just choose to live a normal life and not help people anymore.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go become a farm girl. What do you think, Link? Oh no, Link, don't leave me behind. I'll come with you. Said no scenario. And then Zelda, for some reason, is like, do I still love Link despite chasing after him? Probably. And how does she get him to notice? Probably by kissing him. Literally, it's not hard on that one. Zelda's not really beating around the bush type. She's also the paragon of wisdom.
She also does not have time for that.
Yeah, like she's the paragon of wisdom. She's not a beating around the bush type. She kind of really knows Link a lot, as in they kind of grew up together. So if Zelda's like, I love this person, she'll probably just be like, Link, I love you. Link, once he had Zelda, he'd literally follow her anywhere, and Zelda, even without a monarchy, would travel around Hyrule to see what you could do to help people. Yeah. Even if they wanted nothing to do with her. Yeah, I know, that's my point, is that, like, what the author is saying, that Zelda's like, oh, I guess I have to live a normal life now, and Link's the one that's like, nah, I'm gonna go fuck off and go places. It's just, that's the antithesis of what would happen. It's just, I'm just baffled by this concept, because there's so many ways you can have this romance adventure story between Zelda and Link, and the author decided to choose the opposite of the one premise that, they decided to choose the one premise that would not be it. It's like, you had so many options, so many ways to frame this, and you chose the one thing that wouldn't happen. Fucking hell. You could even... I would buy it. You could even frame it and Zelda goes and fucking starts a coffee shop, goddamn AU. And I would still buy it more than this fucking premise.
Yeah.
That's it. Shut it down, boys.
Oh, God. And the worst part is, there is 90 chapters and 263 words to this. This is a 3-book series so far. With that premise. So this is also why I hate how people do fanfiction.net stories these days, where they don't break it up into multiple books, despite it really should be broken up into multiple books. It's one of the few good things about the Harry Potter section, and where most authors go, I should probably break my story into multiple books, because, like, the summary I have for Philosopher's Stone might not be the best summary to have for fucking Goblet of Fire remix. You know? And it's like, not all of them do it, and admittedly, and you don't always need to, because it doesn't always follow the books by the years. But at least they do it, because it's kind of really how you should be doing it. Even fanfiction.net says you should only be writing for the story that the story you posted is for. So, like, if you start a new book for the story, you technically should be starting a new story post. But it's just like, especially in this sort of situation where the summary for this story is literally the opening elevator pitch premise, but it's already 3 books long, and I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck else could you like, if the author stories and decided he was actually going to do something interesting for the other 2 stories, I might actually give the first story a chance. But all I can see is you've written 3 fucking books for this story with the premise of, does Zelda love Link? Which I really don't think needs 3 books to find out. I'm just saying.
Perhaps.
They've been writing this story since June. Oh.
That's great. Wow. Excellent.
They've been writing this story for 6 months. And they have 3 books out. I am not confident on the quality of that story.
Yeah.
Legend of 5: The Shadow in the Lake. Link, Navi, and his friends are back again in a new adventure. They must now travel to the Zoras to retrieve the spiritual stones before Ganondorf does to summon the spirit dragon. However, many obstacles stand in their way. A guardian figure going rampant, thieves capturing the children, a new enemy disrupts plans, and Ganondorf solidifies his plans. Can the 5 come together to save Hyrule?
No, they can't. Everybody loses. The end. Goodbye.
I would just like to point out the really, really sad stats on this story. 18 chapters, 3K words per chapter, 1 favorite.
Yeesh.
Like, oh,
Damn.
fuck, man.
Yeah.
And the only review is by a guest. Cool story.
Literally cool story, bro. Bruh.
Oh Christ, my dude. Author's note. Welcome to the story. This is part 2 of 8 in my Legend of 5 series. I don't know why 5 is capitalized, but it just is. I look forward to writing this, and I hope you enjoy reading it all.
This man has been on FFN for 16 years now.
Well, he can't be 16 years old, but he certainly writes like one.
Yeah. Oh my god. He's written a total of about...
I don't want to say anything about his name, and Oren, you're not allowed to say anything about his name either.
You know, I wasn't going to, but
Just shut up and move on. That's what we're gonna do.
Oh no! Oh no!
yeah.
7 favorites, 3 favorites, 1 favorite! Oh man, my dude!
This man has a total of fucking 14 reviews, fucking 15 favorites, and 15 follows. Over 130k words, maybe? 120k? Something like that.
Yeah.
That is awful.
Yeah.
Genuinely
Legends
awful.
of 5: A New World. So this is part 1.
Oh,
8
yeah, you know, from that summary, I can kind of understand.
From Chicago fall into a crevice in the earth and are lost forever. However, a young hero from the forest is starting his journey with his fairy guide. He meets the children, and life is never the same for them again. Well,
Okay,
I expect
out-
so, because they probably would have been shot otherwise.
I would say I do want to point
Yeah.
out children falling down mysterious cracks in the road is in fact a common and known problem in Chicago. So listen, if your child falls into another dimension, that's not the city's fault. That's your fault. You knew those cracks were dangerous. You should have kept them closer.
Natural selection.
Is this some fucking Welcome to Night Vision?
No, it's mostly Harry Dresden's fault, really.
Have you ever seen?
Yes.
Okay. Just the as a we're here to remind everyone of the cracks in the road. Do not approach the cracks in the road. Only approach the cracks in the road. Do not look at the cracks in the road when you are passing by in a vehicle. Do not film the cracks in the road. Legend of the Five is a retelling of the classic Ocarina of Time quest with a new characters and alt storyline. It's kind of cringe, bro. Also, I'm not really sure how 4 children from Illinois are supposed to improve the Ocarina of Time, which is objectively
Sneaky.
one of the best in the series.
Sneaky. The Chicago children, they obviously fell through with their Glocks. Do you really think Ganondorf, right? Because here's the thing, they're falling through as kids, and Link's just starting his journey, so they're gonna run into not yet super badass Ganondorf. So just pop, pop, pop. Problem solved, baby. Triforce of power, more like my force of power. I see that the complete wisdom of my statements has left you speechless.
Ganondorf shows up and starts taunting at Link. Yo!
Audio.
You came in the wrong neighborhood, boy! Light him up, Jose! Way to broadside! Maybe the author can get his reparations as more. Oh god. Oh, here's really cringe. Ready for this?
Sure.
10,000 BC. 10,000 years before the calamity of Breath of the Wild, there was another calamity in Breath of the Wild. Which is just a Legend of Zelda game. Because 10,000 years before the calamity in Breath of the Wild is literally 3 different Zelda games. But apparently this author doesn't know that. Because... oh. Yeah.
Oh.
There was another hero, and a princess also was there too. And they also fought Ganon with divine beasts. And with their advanced technology and teamwork, they were able to seal Ganon and bring peace to the world. And this lasted until the events of the start of Breath of the Wild's calamity. This is a romance story between Link and Zelda. So what's the premise? Like, So apparently the premise of this story is that Link and Zelda are dating.
Wow.
Um, yeah, that
Amazing.
yeah, that's a riveting love story. It's marked as a romance adventure story, and I'm not really sure why adventure's in there, because literally if they beat the bad guy in the summary, there's not much else to beat then, because all the monsters only exist because of the calamity. And if the calamity is sealed for the next 10,000 years, which is when monsters start appearing again, and the Banana Clan hasn't started up yet, and all of the advanced technology is still new technology that's advanced instead of old buried technology that's advanced, that means there's probably no bandits. There's no bandits, there's no monsters, the world is saved, and the Empire in control of everything is so technologically advanced, the only thing they haven't done is go to the stars. What's the conflict in this story? Because the conflict doesn't just have to be fighting, but if you're going to have a romance adventure story, assumedly there's going to be adventure, which I'm not really sure where they're going to adventure. If everything is advanced technologically and there's no threats left on the world map. I don't know where the author's trying to go with it. So here's a cringe thing, jump chain challenge. The Legend of Haru, a self-insert OC, because Link's dead, and so the Goddess of Time decides to jump chain someone, namely the author, into the position of chosen one hero. Shockingly, no one's favorited it. The repeating cycle ends. Breath of the Wild AOC. AOC, is that Age of Calamity? Is that I'm assuming that's the next game?
No,
Rob.
well,
Who knows?
no. So here's the problem. We know there's Breath of the Wild 2. There's Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity.
Okay, so
Which is
that's
the
probably it then.
prequel.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably it then. So
It was
Breath of
actually
the Wild, yeah,
pretty cool.
I actually played Age of Calamity, and I was telling Max, like, if I liked this sort of game, which I don't, I would have gotten it. But it was still a good game, even though it's not my thing.
Edge
Yeah.
Calamity or Hyrule Warriors? Cause
Hyrule Warriors.
yeah. Pretty good for a Muso game.
Yeah.
I'm
And
normally not really for those unless there's really stupid stuff in there, but the gameplay's solid.
Yeah,
I'm definitely not
gameplay
for
was
them, but
solid.
like
Yeah.
if nothing else, Hyrule Warriors had a bitchin' soundtrack.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack was pretty good. Yeah, yeah.
Like, guys, what
Uh,
if we took a bunch of Legend of Zelda songs and made them like a combination of normal rock and soft rock? Good job.
As Zelda struggles to unlock her powers, an errant comment from Impa leads Terako to attempt something drastic. to bring forth another Zelda to ask for help. Honestly, I don't know why that's considered drastic. That just makes sense. Also, it's very in line for a Legend of Zelda game.
Yeah.
It fails with unexpected consequences. Also very in line for a Legend of Zelda game. Link, Zelda, and Impa now remember every life they've ever had and how they fought the same battle over and over again against Ganondorf. And they're done with it. They're ending the cycle now. Well, this is unfortunately an instance of the premise I totally dig. Absolutely dig. It's a very long-standing premise where fans have always been just like, I know every Link and every Zelda is different, but wouldn't it be cool in insert game here that the Links and the Zeldas and etc. all just remember themselves from previous games? And the reason why this was even thought about, besides just general fangasming that fans do, is because Ganondorf does. Ganondorf canonically remembers every iteration of himself.
Because, and they reveal this, Ganondorf is not in fact a person.
Yes.
Ganondorf is literally, like, it's dumb, but like, he's the lingering will from Kingdom Hearts. He is the last shred of an angry deity's vengeful curse.
Which also ended up being attached to the Triforce of Power.
Yeah.
And so because the Triforce of Power is eternal, so is the deity's lingering vengeance.
Well, no, as far as I know, it would have been eternal anyway, because Malice was literally on par with one of the Hylian gods.
Right, but the issue is sort of that the Triforce typically is what ultimately in the end seals Ganon. Because Link carries courage with him and Zelda carries wisdom with her, and because Ganon's carrying power, they're just the two of them have to show up to fight Ganon to, in the end, usually with the Master Sword, beat Ganon and reseal him. And the problem usually comes out of, X amount of time later on, Link's dead, Zelda's dead, because they're normal humans, quote unquote, Hylians or whatever, and they have a lifespan, and Ganondorf doesn't. But also because he is also sort of mortal, but not, because when he dies, he'll just reincarnate. Because they're all loosely also attached to the Triforces, basically. What I'm trying to say is, I personally believe that if he wasn't attached to the Triforce of Power, they would have been able to make a more permanent seal on him. But because he is attached to the Triforce of Power, and that sort of has its own cycle thing going on.
Yeah.
And
that doesn't even count the fact that there's a couple different branching timelines of reality, like several of which involve Ganondorf losing the Triforce of Power.
Right, yeah. Well, so, it does confirm that when the Triforce of Power is removed from him, he actually does end up staying sealed for quite a bit longer. So, yeah. But
and then there's... just the last thing is, there's whatever happened in Breath of the Wild where he apparently gave up on having a physical form to be a giant glowy purple ball of hate because he's so done with it.
Yeah, literally so fucking done with this whole reincarnation thing. He's like, fuck it, all out mode, let's go. And that almost worked. It almost worked.
Because oops, Link was still waking up from the 100-year nap.
Yeah. But point being is that it's been done before, and yes, it's got reasons for it in canon. I've read a couple of stories. I've read one really good one. I've sent it's on Space Battles, that one.
Yeah.
Really good. What
Wait, which
I'm
one? Hold on.
Awaken or whatever. Where
I don't remember. Did you send that one to me, or was that one in the fanfiction Discord?
I'm pretty sure I sent it to you, because you asked for it. It was on Space Battles. It's where Link is in Breath of the Wild and he's stuck in the Breath of the Wild gameplay over and over again because every time he beats Ganon, he wakes back up in the pod.
Yeah. Now I remember.
Yeah. What I'm
Very
not
depressing.
confident about is that this story of this has 4 chapters with 14,000 words, which puts it great word count per chapter. I mean, it's got 42 reviews and 100 favorites, so it does have some hope there. So I can click on it and make that be the accelerated story of the night to end the night on.
Amazing.
So anyway, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. Lincoln's doing stuff. I mean, so far so good. The spag is good so far. The author seems to know how to write sentences, set the scene and whatnot. Starts immediately off by calling Link Link and not being like the blonde-haired, blue-eyed mute with a sword. Princess Zelda's there doing shit. Bothered by a light breeze. Pretty good description so far. And then it's okay, so he at least accelerates through talking about Impa and what she looked like, which, I mean, is fair enough. Impa that's old and Impa that's in do
Very
look
different.
a little bit different. Yeah. Little bit different. So I suppose there's that. What would be more interesting is the character arc of Ganondorf slowly over the course of thousands of feats becoming tired and leaving the cycle, moving past his origins to go be a farmer or something. You know, I'm sure that happened at least at one point, and then he kind of grew old and was like, okay, actually, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go back to try and take over the world. I mean, you gotta realize...
We don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know that, but he has existed since time existed. So
it's one of those unfortunate things where we just don't know, because like it used to just be that Ganondorf was getting reincarnated, but now he's being reincarnated and he's a sliver of an angry deity.
well, it's not just that, because he's also his own existence. He's being sort of puppeted around by the sliver of the deity.
Well, that's the thing. Ganondorf isn't a real person. That's the unfortunate like.
Yeah, like I said, but like there is, as far as I'm aware, there is the ego that is Ganondorf, and then the puppet strings are attached to the sliver of the deity.
Kind of, yeah.
So,
but
like,
we don't know if the original ego of Ganondorf was actually the ego of Ganondorf, or if it was created spontaneously, because the problem is, right? Angry deity loses, goes, I'm a sore loser. I curse you, this random jobber kid, and myself to repeat this cycle forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ganondorf came into being.
I mean,
so it's not like Link and Zelda, right? Because Link and Zelda, well, Zelda is the reincarnation of Hylia every single time.
Yeah.
And Link is actually the person who everyone should feel sorry for, because he is just a random jobber child stuck in this repeating cycle of hell. Because he tried to help his girlfriend, who turned out to be a deity.
I thought the origin of Link was that he was just straight up just this random kid that saw a problem and tried to help, and just accidentally ended up doing really fucking well.
No, like that's like it's a couple different. So before they knew that Hylia was Hylia, it was just Zelda. Like it was just the pretty girl from the village that Link liked and wanted to help.
Yeah. That's what my point is. Like, it wasn't even like that Link knew Zelda as like a girlfriend
No, he did
or
know her.
anything. It was just like, oh, that person's in trouble. I'm gonna try and help them. Like, I, random former kid with a wood fucking sword. I'm gonna go help them. And it's like, accidentally gets in between the fight of good and evil. And gets cursed to eternally be stuck in it. It's like, oh shit, my dude. I'm sorry.
Just goes to show, being nice guys finish last. Or, well, get cursed to eternally repeat the cycle of losing.
So you know how the saying goes, you see your life flash before your eyes when you die? Do you think Link awakens all of his lives right before he dies each time? And it's just like,
I mean, Link
shit,
wouldn't, because
here we go again.
Here's the thing, it's weird. Link is technically not a reincarnation. Sometimes. Which makes no sense, I know, but that be how it is.
Sort of. You can sort of say it. So because of how Japanese games are in general, but also specifically because of how Legend of Zelda is, fate is sort of a thing. And
Yeah.
it's sort of like the BioShock so the System Shock BioShock line of there's always a blank and there's always a blank and there's always a blank. It's like there's always going to be a kid named Link, there's always going to be a princess named Zelda, and there's always going to be the villain named Ganondorf.
Yeah.
And even though each Link isn't a reincarnation, it just so happens that the Link that is chosen for this cycle each time just so happens to always be a kid named Link who's wearing green, who can use the Master Sword, you know, etc., etc.
Or gets the hero's clothes or whatever.
Yeah.
So the answer is maybe, possibly. Depending on which incarnation of Zelda it is, she doesn't even have the benefit of that when she dies. She wakes up knowing it.
Oh yeah, that's the worst part about. Honestly, I think Zelda actually has it worse.
I think that's Twilight Princess Zelda.
Yeah.
Because the whole reason that one became a badass was because she's like, I'm gonna try to kick Ganondorf's ass by myself. And by the way, almost worked. Almost worked.
Yeah.
The only reason it didn't work was because she didn't have the Master Sword.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Skyward Sword's the first one in the chronological order.
Yeah, so chronologically, Skyward Sword is the very first one,
Yeah.
and ironically enough, like the very first one is like the 7th or 8th game chronologically.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's just typical Japanese storytelling for you. There was one that he was a Link cosplayer. Yeah, that he was a Link cosplayer in a play. Yeah, I know.
That's funny.
Some of them are pretty funny. Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of like it. I kind of liked how BioShock just like slapped out of nowhere with that. I'm like, oh, you bastards! And there's always a lighthouse. There's always a boy. There's always a. I was like, ah.
No, I would just say that was probably the best thing to come out of Infinite.
Yeah. Yeah, Yeah. There wasn't much good coming out of Infinite.
No. No.
Actually, you know what? Retroactively, I will say one good thing that came out of Bioshock Infinite is that, unlike every other game with the word infinite in them now, they aren't trying to turn it into a game as a service.
True.
True.
So, retroactively, well done, Bioshock Infinite. In a very Bioshock Infinite manner, retroactively, you did a good job.
Retroactively, you were much better than the future that was to come.
Ironically, that's the most Bioshock Infinite thing possible. Oh, God. Anyway, so he looks at Impa, blah, blah, blah. Little Guardian turn its body. Oh, yeah, Little Guardian buddy. I like that. The Calamity, that little dude, that was funny. I like them.
Listen, all I'm saying is, Breath of the Wild would have been way cooler if you had a tiny little, like, palm-sized guardian that was the only piece of technology left that wasn't evil.
Right.
He couldn't attack, but he could, like, carry, but, like, Zelda had recorded, like, 1,000, like, cheerful phrases to encourage Link when he woke up.
Also, that very wholesome. Also, I was
Yes.
gonna say that would be a great way to not have the Sheikah slate. I hated that. Get rid of that. Just have the little
Yeah.
guardian be like projecting the map for you and shit.
Oh my god, that'd be so much better.
That'd
And
be so good.
adorable.
Yeah, it'd be
And-
great. Yeah.
Way more merchandisable than a fucking Sheikah slate.
Hey guys, look, we got a fucking iPad. Cool.
We're showing an iPad cover. Uh-huh. Look at this thing. It's almost as cute as Baby Grogu.
Indeed.
That's the sound of it raining for Nintendo.
I'm throwing money at the screen, but I don't have one.
It's like the Steam Deck. Honestly, there are some friends of mine who don't do PC gaming. I might like say like, look, I'll give you $200. Buy a fucking Steam Deck, you troglodyte.
Get off of the console, you peasant.
Play some real game. No, seriously, the amount of games that will work, you'll be able to run Total Warhammer 2. Now, sure, you probably won't be able to mod it much, but like, it can run it at 60 frames per second, or so the website claims.
Apparently, from the people that have actually gotten me to live test them, it runs pretty well.
Yeah, like you say, that's what everybody who's been testing it has been like. Yeah, works good. Is fun.
Zelda makes an AI version of herself in the slate to motivate Link. Link instead retires and simps over AI Zelda. Wouldn't happen. But also at the same time, I am just kind of, my brain immediately just jumped to, the AI is actually going to be projected out of the little buddy. And it's just like, wait, hold on a second. We got AI hot girl being projected by future technology, and we got a guy who's silent, in green, known for killing a lot of shit. We're sure this isn't Halo?
Might be.
And then my brain was like, you know what, let's put Link in the Mjolnir outfit with no helmet. I'm like, okay. Alright. Let's do this. That is a wasted opportunity, by the way. Of all the things that Nintendo possibly could have put in the game as a bonus item,
Oh yeah.
Spartan armor would have been fucking hilarious. And I'm pretty sure Microsoft would have jumped on that offer.
Maybe. All right, I gotta bounce. I gotta get dinner.
Yeah, you do that. So anyway, the story looks good so far. The dialogue is believable. The spag's good. Let's see. Blah blah blah. They all wake up. He remembers everything. Blah blah blah. Dialogue's pretty good. Alright, so first chapter, accelerated read through. Not much going on. The characters have some decent dialogue interactions with each other. Not just as really set up the whole premise as the summary says, and that's another good thing. The summary doesn't give anything away. Everything the summary says happens in the first chapter, which normally isn't great for a published fiction, but when you're writing a fanfic, it doesn't fucking matter. That's actually what you should be doing, because the fanfic's supposed to be a fanfic. You're not really supposed to be telling me your whole story in the immediate summary.
Amazing.
Yeah, shocker, right? But overall, I'm probably actually going to read the rest of it, to be honest. I mean, the guy's got a decent update rate, I think. Updated December 6th, published November 6th. He's written 4 chapters, so about a chapter a week, about 3K words per week. So that's a fairly decent update rate for how small it is. So, there you go. It might be start of another good story. Let's see how far it goes for him, though, because I know Omega Affinity, I think. I swear I've seen this dude before. Oh, yeah, that's why I've seen him before. He does Dekaru the Fusion Hero.
Neat.
Which is actually a really good story, and I've linked it before. And he's stuck with that for 2 years now, so it's a pretty good sign that this story is gonna go somewhere. He's stuck with the Ruby story, which I really wasn't a huge fan of. 90 chapters, 500k words, and he's been writing that for the past 5 years. It's kind of a semi-harem where they're all sexually related to each other. But not every single one is sexually related to every other one.
That's great.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't really enthused with it. Let's see, he dropped all these other stories, so that's not a good sign. But all of these other stories usually only have, 2,000 words, 5,000 words, 10,000 words, 20,000 words. So it looks like he's decided to start sticking to stories, and he's found his niches. So good chance that this one's gonna go places. And with that, we'll end it tonight. See you guys on Friday. Yeah, Friday. 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because there's always more. It always gets worse, but sometimes we find a gem or two.